Diaspora Affairs, with the Secretary Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Matthias from Conrad, Sarah Kioko, Deputy Clerk, National Assembly, all our invited guests, good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. Yes, this is a very great day, Your Excellency, for us as a State Department. As you've heard, this is our inaugural strategic plan. And before I give my remarks, Your Excellency, allow me to invite some few of our guests to give their remarks. Then I'll give my remarks and invite you to address us. Your Excellency, let me start with Matthias from Conrad, who've been very, very supportive. Conrad has really supported us, Your Excellency, in a number of our programs, having in mind that, yes, this is actually the youngest of the state departments in this republic, and we've really been going through hard times in terms of resources, but we've had partners who've really partnered with us to come up with the several documents that we've managed to develop. One of those partners is Conrad, and we are very privileged today to have Matthias with us. Matthias, you're welcome to address us.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, the Principal Secretary in the Department for Parliamentary Affairs. I had relaxed a bit in my seat seeing how the program went, and you took the stage and I was even more relaxed, and then I heard my name. But I'm glad to be speaking here. Thank you for giving me the chance. Please allow me to say all protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matthias Kamp. I'm the country director for the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. I should not take a lot of your time, but if I now start by talking about German history, you won't believe me. But I think I can do it in a very, very abbreviated version, because there's a reason why we as a German political foundation do the work we do. And it is very closely linked to what we are discussing today, and it has something to do with historical experience. Those of you who know a bit about the German history know about the Weimar Republic. Maybe you have heard about it. There was a strong, or so people thought at that time, a strong German democratic system before the Nazis came in. The Nazis did not get to power through a coup or by military force. The Nazis came out of that democratic system, and they used that democratic system, weakened it from within, and then took over. So the lesson we learned is that you can never stop pushing for strengthening your democratic structures and institutions and carrying everybody along. The democratic institutions and how they work together really, really matter. So, as a result, after the Second World War, the political foundations were one of the responses to that, to say we need a diversity of stakeholders who work towards strengthening democratic institutions, but also explaining to the people how these institutions work. Fast forward a few years later, around the time when Kenya got independent, and you might remember that the Germans were the first to recognize independence and start engaging diplomatically, and later the idea of development cooperation followed, and we also got a role to play in that. Because as we engage internationally and as we engage in development cooperation, governance is key, because the realization is that in order to promote development, the governance question is at the heart. And then we go back to the Weimar experience. So what can we do to improve governance? It has something to do with the overall architecture of how institutions work together. And it's not just about having institutions in certain silos and then looking at them in an isolated manner, but also make sure that the institutions, the different arms of government and in the public sector work together. And it needs a lot of fine-tuning to do that. So I feel that, and we just talked about it, having the youngest department in the Kenyan governance architecture, that addition is a very crucial element because it addresses that aspect of coordination, of harmonizing approaches, of bringing the different institutions together to do that kind of fine-tuning in order to promote your national development agenda. So I have to laud the Kenyan government for making this step. I want to congratulate you for the work you have done so far. It's been a pleasure working with you. I am here today representing your development partners. It's been a pleasure working with you. I want to reaffirm our commitment to working with different Kenyan government institutions. If I look at our chief guest, Your Excellency, if you allow me, I think it's the first time I am speaking at an occasion, but I think we've been in the same hall about 4 or 5 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks, because we've had the privilege to work together with you in your different capacities and with the brilliant people that you work with, whether it is in your political party, whether it is in foreign affairs, whether it is in diaspora affairs, and I'm glad to see Ambassador Helen here. We just had a great activity together in Naivasha, and now we find ourselves together again here. And I think it also says something about you and the bond that we share with you as Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, that somehow all roads lead back to you and your leadership when we are engaging with the Kenyan government. So it's a pleasure to be here together. And to my in-law, I wish you all the best for your future work. And let's keep working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Matthias. He has really represented the development partners. Thank you once again. Let's give him a round of applause. Your Excellency, allow me to invite Sarah Kioko, who is representing Parliament, to give her few remarks. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, my friend, Dr. Aurelia Rono, Principal Secretary for the State Department of Parliamentary Affairs, my friend Balozi Barine, in Balozi, our development representative of the development partners, senior government officials present today, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. I am grateful, and I stand here on behalf of the Clerk of the National Assembly and indeed the National Assembly to appreciate, first of all, the work that the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs has been doing in coordinating the work of Parliament and the Executive. At this point in time, this coordination is very necessary with a very given the very enlightened citizenry that we have. We have citizens who ask and follow, very innovative, very curious, and so you have come, this department has come on board at a time when we really needed this kind of partnership. Our expectation is that with the new, or with your strategic plan, the coordination is going to be better. The citizens are going to be served in a better manner. Their expectation is that they are responded to, their issues are responded to real time. And the interventions that we offer as Parliament, with your help as a State Department, are so critical. And we hope that we can work together so that we deliver as expected of the citizenry. So I'm so grateful this morning on behalf of the National Assembly and indeed the larger parliamentary fraternity to be here today. And because of how important it is for our partnership, I came accompanied by two of our senior officers. We have our director from the Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training, Dr. Waka. And then we have one of our fiscal analysts who is also accompanying me today. So we are grateful to be here today, Your Excellency. It is not our day to speak. It is a day to witness the launching of the strategic plan to make our working relationship better. So I bring the greetings of the Clerk of the National Assembly and look forward to our working together with better synergy for the sake of the Republic and for the sake of delivery of service. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Let's give her a better round of applause. Yes, she has really represented Parliament, Your Excellency. As we sit here, the parliamentarians are in Mombasa for East Africa Interparliamentary Games, and they have really given their apologies. Ichungwa, the majority leader, we are still expecting him. We wish he gets us as we proceed. Your Excellency, allow me now to invite the representative of our PS, Diaspora Affairs. She was also supposed to be with us in person in the morning, but from 11 she had an event. And we are very happy to have Ambassador Helen representing her. And let's appreciate her as she comes to give her remarks. Welcome, Helen.
Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, all protocols observed, good afternoon. It is definitely an exciting time to be here to come and watch the newest kid on the block launching their strategic plan. It is not an easy thing to come up with a strategic plan when you've not had something which you're basing it on. And we also want to appreciate so much that we have a common partnership with some of our development partners because it will make it easier. We appreciate the fact that now our legislation can have a focused manner in terms of having the MDAs have a strategic focus on how we are having the legislation rolled out, how we understand it. We now have a State Department that will assist us in understanding the legislation that we are passing. Because sometimes we pass legislation and we turn around and we ask ourselves, what was that all about? So what have we passed? So at least we have a State Department that we can now call on and say, could you please call us to come to the Kenya School of Government and have a greater understanding of how this particular legislation impacts on our work within the State Departments. So we warmly, on behalf of my PS, who was really wanting to attend this event and she couldn't, on her behalf, we want to congratulate you, Madam PS, for this wonderful, wonderful and great achievement. We want to congratulate the directors and the staff who work with you, and we look forward to working together with you to accomplish all this that you have put together. Thank you very much.
Again, let's give a better round of applause. Thank you very much, Ambassador Helen. Finally, Your Excellency, let me invite a representative of PS Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Barine, who is the DG Political and Diplomatic Affairs. You're welcome, Ambassador.
Your Excellency, I'm here with great humility for having been accorded a minute because time is really not in our favor. But permit me at the onset just to state that the State Department for Foreign Affairs operate in a very convivial environment with our sister state departments, and therefore we couldn't miss this very, very significant and important occasion. We want to encourage and prod them on. I think the journey is long, but it has started. What is important, and having listened to the presentation, is the kind of milestones that they have put along the way, just to make sure that which that we have put on paper is followed through, is monitored, and it remains what you actually call either the beacon, or either the lighthouse, or what you call your true north. Please remain committed to that, because that is what we have told the citizens, the consumers of your services, those that fund you. So we expect results out of that. But perhaps just to remind ourselves, this baby has been in incubation for the last 10 years. It's not that new. I'm saying this because I should have said that I bring apologies of the PS, Dr. Koreo Singwai, but we have all heard that he has actually been directed to be away. And therefore there are no apologies. I'm here to stand on behalf to represent him, having also been the officer appointed as head of Legislative and Legal Office, LERO, in 2013. What did that office intend to do? And I'm actually a beneficiary of that, and that is how I became the Director, Liaison, Parliamentary and County Affairs. The objectives remain the same. We are very happy to see that now there is a child that has been born and is on its feet. Thank you very much. God.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Let's also give him a better round of applause. Your Excellency, before I give my very brief remarks, allow me to really appreciate the great team that has brought us this far. That is the team for State Department for Parliamentary Affairs. Let me ask the Secretary, Legislative and Parliamentary Affairs, the Secretary, Policy Coordination and Strategy, and the directors to stand. Your Excellency, this is the team that we started the State Department together. And along the way, we've had several staff who've joined us and have worked together with us in a very wonderful way. That's why we've managed to achieve a number of milestones as the State Department. Let's appreciate them again. Before they sit, we also have, I've mentioned that we have staff who joined us and they're doing a great work. Let's also appreciate them. Thank you very much. You can have your seats. Your Excellency, I know time is not on our side, and I'm aware that you have a lot of programs ahead of you, and we intend to use the shortest time. May I take this opportunity to welcome all of us to this official launch of the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs Strategic Plan 2023-2027. I also take this opportunity to thank you for honoring our invitation and gracing this occasion. I know you've really been waiting for a long time, but we delayed to start because of unavoidable circumstances. And we are very happy that you are patient enough to wait for this time. The occasion is very, very dear to us, not because we are launching a strategic plan, because strategic plans are launched every time, but because it is indeed the first ever strategic plan for a first of its kind State Department in the government of Kenya and the region. The elevation of the government legislative agenda function to cabinet level status under the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the establishment of this State Department is amongst the series of transformative measures that the Fifth Administration has laid out and is implementing for the enhanced management of national development priorities. The idea of an institutionalized focus on the government's legislative agenda builds on the gains that the government of Kenya has made over the years in institutionalizing an administration's development agenda. It is a testament of the administration's acknowledgement of the crucial role that policy and legislative frameworks play in anchoring its projects, programs, and other strategic objectives. Your Excellency, since receiving this mandate, a lot of the efforts that we have put in place have been to first and foremost inject a sense of certainty and harmony in the legislative agenda and parliamentary liaison space. With tremendous support and cooperation from our sister MDAs, we have, for example, put together the government legislative agenda schedule, which was approved by Cabinet as the official repository of the government's policy and legislative initiatives. This schedule has proved itself as an invaluable tool in ways we could only have imagined. Since putting it together, the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary has been a significant stakeholder and contributor in assessments of the status of government's milestone in a number of identified fronts. We are now able to talk about the extent and reach of the government's legislative and policy work at a level of impact and detail that was previously impossible. We can talk of numbers such as 720, 772, and more recently, 1025 initiatives. We can also talk of and report on performance level across sectors in government. We can also talk about what is in Parliament, what is at Cabinet, what is at public participation level, what is still at drafting, and the like. In the GLA schedule, we now have a platform from which to have regular conversations with MDAs on their hits and misses, and our role is assisting them deliver. In the relatively short time that we have been around, Your Excellency, we have also developed various coordination tools that also received Cabinet approval. They include the Public Policy Handbook for Kenya and the Guidelines for the Development of National Government Policy and Legislation. And it is indeed true what the DG Kenya School of Government said, that we are going to partner together. We embrace the whole of government approach, and we will partner together to ensure that this, we build capacity of MDAs to be able to understand what is in these public policy handbooks, what is in these guidelines for the development of national government policy, the legislation, so that we have standardized policies being developed across government. I can confirm, Your Excellency, that the uptake and implementation of these tools at the technical level in government has been very, very impressive. The State Department pledges to continue in its sensitization and capacity building interventions to ensure that 100% uptake and compliance is progressively achieved across MDAs. The State Department also continues to play the day-to-day parliamentary liaison role. Part of this role entails management of the parliamentary liaison services across MDAs to ensure that Parliament has dedicated points of contact to facilitate prioritization and responsiveness to parliamentary business. We also continue, Your Excellency, to upscale our parliamentary interventions, which include engagement and collaboration with Parliament's leadership on various items of interest to the Executive. We also continue supporting, Your Excellency, reporting obligations to Cabinet. I thank you, Your Excellency, for your continued confidence in our capacity to support you in this very important interface with Parliament. The strategic plan sets us on a great trajectory to build on the foundation blocks put in place in the 2 years of our existence, as well as open up new frontiers of our mandate, such as the rollout of additional coordination tools, such as the legislative agenda tracking information system and the legislative drafting tools, the conclusion and implementation of the parliamentary liaison framework, and even closer collaboration with Parliament in areas such as implementation of parliamentary resolutions and the executive's undertakings to Parliament. Your Excellency, our foundation blocks are ingrained in the strategic goals and the key results areas that have been highlighted in the presentation that was done earlier. It is our intention, Your Excellency, that in implementing them through the strategies and activities set out in the strategic plan, we shall achieve various outcomes, which include the effective implementation of the government legislative agenda, the expeditious and seamless execution of government business in Parliament, increased citizens' satisfaction and support of government initiatives, and a marked improvement of our human resource capacities and productivity. Your Excellency, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank you for your leadership and support to our State Department since its inception. Your counsel, Your Excellency, your advice, your support has really brought us this far. Your vision has ensured the ship remains steady and that critical milestones in the State Department's journey are realized. I would also like to take this opportunity to appreciate the service and dedication of all those who contributed to the development of this strategic plan, including my great team, the staff of the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs, Conrad, ACT, PFMR, yes, from the National Treasury, and many others who really supported us, KIPRA, Kenya Law Reform Commission, and so many other partners who work with us. As we embark on the work that the plan cuts out for us, I most honorably request for the collaboration and support from all our stakeholders. I'm confident that through our collective efforts, we shall achieve our goals and realize the great potential of this great nation. It is now my singular duty to welcome our chief guest, His Excellency the Prime Cabinet Secretary, to make his remarks and thereafter leads us in launching the strategic plan. Your Excellency the Prime Cabinet Secretary, you're welcome.
Okay, please be seated. Thank you, Madam Aurelia Rono. I'll make some formal remarks and then, with your permission, just have an extra 2 or 3 minutes at the very tail end. The parliamentary leadership that is represented here by Madam Kioko, members of the diplomatic corps, and more so our partner and other partners, Matthias and the other teams that are here, Dr. Aurelia Rono, Principal Secretary, State Department of Parliamentary Affairs, staff of the State Department, development partners, I repeat that. Let me acknowledge the head of this very good institution, Professor Noor, my fellow diplomats who have spoken a few minutes ago, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great pleasure for me to preside over the launch of the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs strategic plan for the years 2023 to 2027. I joined the Principal Secretary for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Aurelia Rono, in expressing our excitement for delivering this inaugural strategic plan for the State Department. This is yet another first under my portfolio. As I presided over the launch of the strategic plan for the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, which was another first, right here on September 30th, 2024. You may recall that when the State Department of Parliamentary Affairs was established, the PS was the only staff member. Working together, we went through the extraordinary process of operationalizing the department, anchored on Executive Order Number 1 of January 2023. This process has now matured, as you have seen from the presentation on the structure and commitments of the department, which we started from scratch. Let us appreciate PS Rono and her entire team for the heavy lifting and legwork they have endured to deliver a living document that will shape the government's legislative agenda. The establishment of this State Department embraces His Excellency President William Ruto's vision of an institutionalized approach to matters relating to the government legislative agenda and day-to-day relations with Parliament. This is a paradigm shift that presents the government with a holistic, bird's-eye view of its entire portfolio of policy and legislative proposals that activate the national development aspirations. It is a crucial plank that assists in evidence-based decision-making and an opportunity to address impending challenges in a more structured manner. It has also assisted the government to manage the intricacies of policy and lawmaking, which need to be synchronized to deliver products that truly speak to the needs of Mwananchi and on time. This includes engaging and involving stakeholders in the development process and the constitutional, statutory, and administrative imperatives of the journey towards the envisaged outcomes. Evidence of the achievements we have made as an administration in just under 2 years is overwhelming. This includes enacting. Earlier it was 35 bills, but today the President has assented to another 7, so that brings it to 42, becoming law. The assented laws are crucial in the management of public finances, budget support, and in anchoring the government's plan for various sectors including climate change, universal health care, affordable housing, sugar, and water, just to mention a few. Further, we have also developed 19 national policies which are under implementation, 5 of which have received parliamentary approval as sessional papers. We have also cleared 82 statutory instruments for implementation. This has boosted regulatory efforts in key sectors including public finance and tax administration, capital markets, shipping and maritime affairs, wildlife, agriculture, refugee management, anti-money laundering and combating terrorism financing, energy and petroleum, land management and administration, public works, health, roads, and transport. At this juncture, allow me to appreciate Parliament through its leadership present for being a key partner in these processes. The Executive has regularly called upon you to exercise your constitutional lawmaking function to support government proposals. We also value our continued partnership with Parliament's leadership in navigating representation and oversight issues such as the administration of question time and the general responsiveness of the Executive to parliamentary business and inquiries. It is against this background that I have reflected on the State Department strategic plan and find it fit for purpose of the planning period 2023 to 2027. This plan comes at an opportune time when Kenya is experiencing interesting dynamics including increased awareness and interest of our youth in the affairs of our country. We are also confronted by serious misinformation and disinformation about government policies, projects, and programs. Ladies and gentlemen, through the legislative agenda, we have a responsibility to enhance the engagement of stakeholders and citizens in policy and legislation-making processes to make them appreciate the government's intentions and expectations. We also value partnerships and collaboration that will enable us to achieve the full potential and benefits envisaged under this plan. The State Department, working closely with agencies in the policy and lawmaking space, should ensure that citizens and stakeholders are presented with the real and unadulterated intents of our policy and legislative proposals. Let me conclude by assuring you of my steadfast support during the implementation of this strategic plan. Our overarching goal should be to see these proposals contribute to Kenya's socioeconomic transformation and the lasting prosperity of all Kenyans. I am confident that we shall reap the benefits of the efforts of all those who contributed to the development of this strategic plan. Together, we can deliver policies and legislation that will enhance our country's national development agenda. It is now my great pleasure to declare the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs Strategic Plan for the period 2023 to 2027 officially launched. Now, let me just take the 2 or so extra minutes. Sometimes when I make the statement that she was the only staff member initially, one may not see the full import of this statement. But I can tell you when the government was being formed after the election and the department was established, Madam Rono was operating from the corridors of the 10th floor in Treasury Building. That is actually where she was. There were no offices. She was in the corridors, giving her directions from there. And then she graduated to sharing space with another PS, 2 other PSs in fact, and her officers, sharing space, trying to put things together until where we have reached. So it's not an understatement, it's a very serious message. And what I saw in her and her team was not about the space to operate from, but I saw determination and the will to serve the people of Kenya. So I must commend you for that perseverance, that resilience, and the patience, because we were setting up and the physical situation has been quite dire, and it remains so. Some of you will recall I kept on telling you that for us to start seeing the ship turning, it may take at least 2 to 3 years before you start seeing a turnaround in the state of the economy. I kept on repeating this, and it was not going to be easy. People thought it was a joke. To turn around an economy is not instant coffee. It is a process. And we are still in that process so that the results can be done. When you say it's instant coffee, you are completely misleading the people. For instance, when a piece of legislation, a facilitative piece of legislation, is taken to Parliament so that they can create the necessary legal framework, you do not expect Parliament to rubber stamp it. Parliament has got its processes, its procedure, and they have to analyze the piece of legislation because they represent people. So in the process, that piece of legislation has got to take its time until it matures from that Parliament. So you cannot wake up and just expect that you can run away with anything as if, as we used to say when we were young, if wishes were horses or whatever. You have to appreciate that there's a legal framework that has to be followed. Now, there are a few challenges which our Constitution now demands. Public participation, stakeholder consultation. It's a very serious issue. It was not there before in the Constitution, but now it's there. If you don't go through that process, the many wise Kenyans will take you to court and put a petition there and halt you in your tracks. Because the law now demands that there must be stakeholder consultations. So these are processes that we cannot circumvent, we cannot run away from. We have to deal with them. However, the thing I want to say that we have not cracked, and we need to figure out how to crack it as a society, is that we must also be conscious of the cost that it takes to come up with legislation. And we all need to work together. The departments that are generating the piece of legislation, Parliament that has got to be at the forefront in public participation, the various stakeholders. We have been scrutinizing through the parliamentary department a situation where a recommendation comes to you, and the proposal in that document is that for us to prepare this document and then have it go through the various stages, and then it is tabled and it becomes law, we have seen what I call extremely scary financial proposals. Sometimes you find a department saying that it will cost 100 million to develop this piece of legislation from A to Z. A. Tafadhali. Tafadhali wa Kenya. And our departments, please. In a situation where we have a challenge financially, it does not make sense. Even if you are in better times, it does not make sense that to incubate a piece of legislation and then get it to the level where it is now accented to, that it costs the taxpayer 100 million shillings. Hapana. Hapo tunawadhulumu wa Kenya. We need to step back where we can go through these processes, but not at a cost. If it means that, let's say we take only 10 pieces of legislation, if we assume that that figure is accurate, then it means that to do 10 pieces of legislation, it would cost the taxpayer 1 billion shillings. That is not credible. And it would be immoral for us to go through that kind of thing. So I want us collectively to think through this very carefully so that we moderate the cost of developing that legislation. Because you must always ask yourself, how many people would you provide with tap water with a cost of 100 million Kenya shillings? How many last connectivity people would you put on the electric grid with that figure? How many hospitals would you be able to supply sufficient medicine to with that kind of figure? So if you compare that and if you put it in your mind, and then you ask yourself, is it therefore morally possible that we should spend 100 million shillings or 50 million shillings to develop a legislation against these needs of our people? It's a rhetorical question. It's up to you to reflect, and those who are listening to us on this particular issue. The other thing that I would just want to encourage is that let's take Parliament seriously. Let us take Parliament seriously. This is why the President, in his wisdom, decided to have a State Department for Parliamentary Affairs. He was sending a signal that all government officers, all public officers, must take Parliament seriously. So when officers develop questions, or respond to questions rather, on behalf of the ministry and the review, take it seriously. Do your research properly and inform your minister or your principal secretary, whoever is going to appear before the committee, inform them appropriately and develop honest positions. If you think it's a bother, and the State Department has done a good job training officers on how to respond. They've done quite a bit. They've trained quite a number in all the departments, and we need to train more so that they can help the various departments to respond to parliamentary issues better. But if you think it's a problem, try and imagine yourself when the Gen Z were in the streets to now go and respond to them. Parliament is offering you a structured opportunity to respond to matters of the state, of the people, in a structured approach, to respond in a measured way, to give a thorough response so that they can understand. Those are the people's representatives. You are getting an opportunity. Now, if you don't respond appropriately, will you respond to a crowd in the streets? Which is better? Which gives you the better opportunity? Obviously, to do a thorough job and respond to Parliament effectively. Otherwise, if you don't, then you know what happens. Tutakuwa na shida huko nje. If you have never been in politics, the most difficult thing is to try and address a crowd that is angry. To try and make logic out of something when they're angry. It's a very difficult thing. Pray that you are never found there. So let us respect Parliament, and then we can respond to it, the issues they raise effectively as we go forward. We are happy that there's now a record of the legislative pieces we work on. When they were preparing, the department was preparing, they invited various sectoral groups from different departments, and one of the things we found through the the Department of Parliamentary Affairs was that there were cases where there were multiple departments of government legislating for the same thing. So many, all legislating for the same thing. So through this department, an attempt, a fairly good attempt, has been made to rationalize that kind of duplicity. But it's not complete. But it is also shocking. I've talked of departments, but what was more shocking is that we also came across situations where in the same department, different sections were also literally working at cross purposes, all trying to evolve a piece of legislation and not knowing that the person next door in the same building, on the same floor, is also at it. So there was a question in the departments, but that would be what? Inter, isn't it? And then there was confusion also in the intra. At home, at the base, you find this confusion in the legislation that was being developed. So these are issues that cost money, they cost time, they force us not to be able to deliver to the community and to the people who voted the government in. So we must correct this. And ultimately, as I said, we must be cost conscious. That is also very, very, very essential. So as I launch this strategic plan, I want to continue appealing to you to put your best foot forward, to request our partners to work very, very closely with us, give us more support. Now that I've told you the journey that Aurelio Rono walked to get us to where we are, I think they deserve some extra support to be able to grow this action point within our governance system more effectively. And good legislation will definitely make Kenya a better place to invest in, a better place to work in. That is how you attract investment, both from domestic investors and from external. Consistency of law, you should be able to predict the direction a government is going, and this is all legislation. And we also must safeguard so that, although it's maybe about parliament, but some of these things also originate in the departments. You find, and I was talking to the German Business Council, I spoke to other people, you find that there are some people who have forgotten, or sometimes don't remember that we are a liberalized economy. We are no longer a closed economy. We don't have price controls. We lifted those things. But you still find old habits creeping in. If you want to be a shareholder in a company, please do so by paying for your shares. Do not try and create a law that says for somebody to come and invest in Kenya, automatically you are forcing him to say that I must have a partner, a Kenyan partner, who will invest so much % for free. My friend, there are no free things. Let us be progressive in our pieces of legislation. I'll say this and then I sit back. When I became Minister for Finance, some time back, there was a law where somebody used to say that for you to have a bank, if you are external or whatever, you must look for a Kenyan fellow and give him who is a shareholder. So what happened? We then ended up creating a team of so-called entrepreneurs who would find their way in the corridors of government in those days. Then they get a banking license. And then they start looking around and saying, I've got the banking license, you come. So you end up setting up a bank, somebody who doesn't want to be responsible, somebody who's not putting in their capital. And what happened later? There was an avalanche of banks collapsing because they were undercapitalized. That means there were banks that were built on sand. Their foundation was in sand and not on rock. There are others who talk of, we want to be in mining. You create legislation, you want to be in mining. You sit on a license. You don't prospect, even for 2 years, whatever. For 10 years, you're holding a license, blocking genuine investors in that sector because you're holding on to a license. What are we doing to the country? Right now, we have challenges of electricity. We are moving, yes, it's green, but our power remains expensive, relatively so. And expensive power makes it difficult for manufacturing to grow, for industry to grow at the pace that it should be growing. But you find, again, there are people who say we can invest in a certain line of energy, they get a license, they sit on the license. Now there's a queue of people who have to be brought onto the energy, into the power purchase agreements, and you are told you have to wait because certain people or certain entities already have the licenses. Then they sit on the licenses for several years. We are losing opportunity for genuine investors to increase the capacity of our power, which would then increase supply and make it more affordable for industry to grow. Some of these things are originating on our desks in the public service. Some of these policies are originating on our desks in the public service. I think we are doing serious disservice to the people of Kenya, not just about this generation, but very many generations to come. And we are being overtaken. Don't be cheated. You go to Addis, the infrastructure is rapidly changing. You go to Rwanda, it's changing. You go to Tanzania, it's changing. You go to Zanzibar, it's changing. So, time is not on our side. So we must do public participation, but do it meaningfully, knowing that other nations are not waiting for us. They are moving, they are competing. And what are they competing for? They are competing to create job opportunities for their people. The demographic challenge we have here, they also have. They are working faster on some of these things. We are still arguing and arguing and arguing. Ladies and gentlemen, through this department, we can work together and rally support for the country so that our policies can move and propel the country to a better place. So congratulations, Mungu awabariki, and I wish this department all the success and many other departments and all the governments. And thank you again for all our friends who have been working with us. Asante sana.
round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Our chief guest with humility. Our chief guest with humility, Parliamentary Affairs PS Daktari. Ningewaomba mkuja kwenye stage so that we can now do this, unveil our baby. It is time. Our DJ, you be ready. Karibu sana. We are going to do the countdown. Okay, PS Diaspora representing kindly. Foreign also. Matthias, come on stage. Parliament representatives, come on stage. DG, come on stage. Now we are going to do, just come on stage this way so that we witness this. This is the time and this is the launch. This is the time, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to do at the count of three. At the count of three, and then you will press the button. Kindly, please.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, our baby's unveiled. We've unveiled our baby. Lovely. Lovely. Strategic Plan 2023-2027. Wapi makofi tena, wapi makofi. You can just walk and sit. Just walk along. Asante sana. Let's unveil. Yes, this is lovely. Why can't we clap again, ladies and gentlemen? This lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, our chief guest, for creating your time. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before they leave, we want just to do a session of photo. Akipata hivyo msalamieni, piga makofi, piga makofi. Just kipiga makofi tafadhali. Thank you very much. Asante sana. Our baby is now launched. Strategic plan. This time for fourth session. Lovely. Wapi makofi tena. Our baby is out now. Now the next team for photo. Yes, our chief guest with the PS. We want just to get the photo so that thank you. The team friends, Conrad to this. Yes. HODs and the directors kindly. Okay. HODs and directors, please. HODs, directors, secretaries, please. As we go by, please contact Kenya Law Reforms Commission. Yes, those are all partners. Partners are coming next. Partners are coming next. Kindly be ready so that we meet time.